I'm Patty from the Mind's Eye, and I'm here today with, I can talk your ear off, Sarah.
Gagne.
Gagne,
Yeah.
I knew her name. I'm sorry about that. We were busy in conversation. So I'm so glad that she was able to come with me today on the Mind's Eye show. And what would you like to talk about today?
I'm so surprised that you are now like, what do you want to talk about? Because usually you're the one who has everything to talk about. So I am, my mode of divination that I have been drawn to is tarot. I'm a medium. I was born that way. And I know that you had discussed it with the guest previous that, you know, it kind of runs in your family, and it absolutely does.
Oh, nice.
So yes, my daughter has it. She'll be 12, right?
My 12-year-old son.
Exactly, right? The crystal children, the indigo children, right?
I love
It's
it.
incredible. And she'll be 10 times stronger than I ever was.
I call him Colin times 10.
Yep.
He's medium times 10 compared to the rest of the family.
Exactly. When she wants it is when we'll go ahead and embrace it. Because when I was little and I was developing some of these things and could see people in my room and, you know, could know things about people that I shouldn't have known. Instead, in the 80s, you know, people were like, oh no, you're making it up, or, you know, that's just your imagination, and, you know, all of those things that they just poo-poo it, and then you go on and you go, I guess that's not real.
Yeah.
So when she's ready, I'll be ready.
I was so fortunate, and I think that's what's so great about the crystal children, because I even have mothers and grandmothers opening up that have never been opened before so that they can be responsive to these crystal children. I was fortunate my mom and dad didn't. They looked at each other like, what the heck's going on, more than a few times. But my brother even had an imaginary friend in every restaurant place he was sat. So they were very cool. So I was very fortunate.
My brother did too. That's funny because that is definitely correlated. It's not just imaginary friend. Sometimes those
I talk
friends,
to it.
sometimes
I talk to
those
his imaginary
friends
friends.
are real, right? And sometimes the names that they're saying to those children, it's their interpretation of that sound, right? So they may not know William as a name when they're 2, but they're going to say something that sounds like what they hear it to be.
And it was so funny, around 10, my brother decided he wanted to close off. So he told us, we were riding down the road, and he said, all right, I threw Holly out the window, so he's not going to come to dinner.
Poor Holly.
Poor Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter used to say that the angels would fly on the side of our car as we drove. And I was like, you are so funny, because honestly, what's that phrase that angels drive as fast as you, or fly as fast as you can drive? And so like that actual image is in my mind when I hear that, like just they're flying on the side of your car. They're making sure that you're okay, that you're protected in a little bubble. So she was right.
My daughter was going in Miss Rhode Island pageant, and we were going for the gown fittings and stuff. Not my cup of tea at all, but she was in it. And one time she turned around and she said, I had done this about the bubble because we were going up Massachusetts to this gown shop, and she saw a car bounce. She goes, what did you do when you do this? I said, I put a bubble around. She said, I've seen a car bounce like off the bubble. She goes, you need to teach me that, she said to me.
Yeah. I had a person that I worked with a long time ago, and she would be like, put yourself in the egg and zip up the egg. You know, zip up like The Boy in the Bubble. Remember that movie, John Travolta?
Yep.
Yeah. So zip yourself up in it. Go ahead. Some people say light. Some people say, you know, turn the light on, whatever it is that you want. But if you surround yourself in that good energy, you are protected, even if you're in a car.
And the biggest key, though, is to let them know you're grateful for them afterwards.
Right.
Let them know you're grateful.
Yep, and we always do that. Thank you very much. It's funny because whenever we lose something, we pray to St. Anthony to find it. You know, we thank him after. Otherwise, you're not going to find it. He's not going to help you. I have
Archangel Michael I constantly thank for the protection and stuff.
Yep.
I had a funny story, too. It was a 70-degree day in April one year, and I had a rental car, and I didn't know that with the rental cars, if you keep your own insurance and you get in an accident in the rental car, you have to pay the rental until it's fixed. So that if they wait 60 days to do it, you have to pay 60 days rental. And I found out the last week I had it. So I was taking back the rental car, and it was a 70-degree day. All the race rockets were out. Everybody was crazy on the road, and I was going down 117 towards Apponaug.
Okay.
And everybody's cutting in and cutting off. And I just looked up in the sky and I said, please, dear God in heaven, watch over me. Now, my husband had a fire protection company, which you don't see a lot of those trucks around. All of a sudden, one came behind me and one came on the side of me, and they guided me down. So I said, oh, they must have been doing a small job together, because you try to psychoanalyze it sometimes.
Of course
too.
you do, right.
And one of them left, and the other one stayed with me until I was within 50 feet of the rental place that I was turning it back in.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's such a gift.
And, you know, having that correlation between what the coincidence is, you know, we could analyze it, negate it, we could talk about it and kind of get to that point of like, oh, you know, that's just the, but sometimes we just have to believe, because it makes more sense to do that than to try to just explain it.
And I don't believe in coincidences. I'm a firm believer that it's way more
But, you know, we get those analytical people within our lives that want to say, well, this is why, you know, the temperature changed here, and, you know, oh, I have, you know, neuropathy, that's why I'm feeling tingles, or whatever, you know. And you always have those people that try to like, it's no big deal, much like my parents did when I was a kid, not knowing what the gifts really were.
Absolutely.
Right.
And my parents both had it. I didn't know my father because, as I said, we thought it was IQ. But for all of a sudden you realize after he passed, there's some things you can't just...
Right.
Intelligence isn't going to tell you things, you know?
Right. You kind of have to have intelligence as well as your, you know, third eye, or that kind of knowing feeling.
And I was surprised because after he passed, it was so quickly after he passed, he assisted me often with clients. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And it was strange.
It's funny because my grandfather comes through too, and he was not that person. He was swamp Yankee. He wasn't going to do anything like this, but he comes through. And I call it, you know, when you have those people within your own family that you recognize, that kind of usher people in. And the story that you had just told to the guest previously about your daughter handing somebody's hand to you so that you could deliver a message to that person's loved one. I call those people of our own our psychic bouncers, because they let the people in as we need to deliver messages from the other side.
I love that, psychic bouncer.
Psychic bouncer, right? And so, you know, when you have a client or there's somebody that wants to connect with somebody, and what I call it is, in my crazy mind, it's not crazy, but I call it pulling on them. Like it's like tugging on somebody's pant leg or their shirt or what have you. I can pull on them and see if they'll come through, but they don't always come through. So what I'll do is I'll pull through, and sometimes my grandfather will be the one to be like, nope. And I just don't even entertain it. Now I just continue with whatever we're talking about. Nope, we're not going to get what you're looking for today, but that's okay because you got what you needed. So, you know, that kind of thing.
And I always tell the clients, you'll get what you need. Both when I'm doing that, when I'm doing past life regression, get what you need, not always what you want.
Exactly. And, you know, sometimes people have that preconceived notion coming in about who they want to speak to, what they want to hear, because I read tarot. So we talk about life events, we talk about different things that are going on, family members, vice versa, anything, you know, anything that's happening. And they want a specific answer. And you know what? We talk about all the things that surround that specific answer, and I call that groundwork. Here's your groundwork. This is what you need to look at in order to fix what you came here for.
Right. And a lot of the people don't understand that you have the power of choice involved. So certain answers we can't give them even though they want it, but it's going to depend on, well, you and your husband will work out as long as both of you give 100%, and you got to make some changes. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's the power of choice. You can't say it's going to work out.
Right.
Because one of them could sit there and say, you know what, I'm tired. I don't feel like this.
Right.
And then it changes. So it's the power of choice. It's leaning this way, and you're getting ready for some really fabulous changes. But there's always the power of choice. You've got to make some choices and stuff. So
right, and I say that too, and I also say that, you know, especially when it's relationship issues or certain things that, you know, somebody wants somebody else to do, you can't change that other person. The only person you can change is you. So by looking at all of these things that make sense to you, figure out how it works for you so that you can think about what that issue or that dilemma, that problem is in yourself. Because you're not going to change that husband. We all know that we can't change husbands. But what we can do is we can kind of change ourselves to understand where that person is coming from or look at things differently.
And I tell a lot of the clients, it comes through in the cards, and I have Spirit tell me they need to put boundaries. And I had to do it once with my second husband, And he had had a very chaotic childhood that had him very messed up. And he did 80% of the work by the time I met him.
Right.
And then early on, some stuff was popping up.
Right.
And finally, I said to him, he went to go off the wall when my father was dying. He did when his father died, and I accepted that. But my father was dying, and I said, you know what? I can't keep doing this. I got to enjoy the rest of my adult life.
Right.
You either got to finish getting your help, or I'm gone.
Right.
And I walked away, and he finished getting the help, and then.
But maybe that's what needed to happen within that moment, because you weren't going to help him
But you
facilitate
have to be,
growth.
what I tell to the people, you can't threaten it and not be willing to do it. I would have walked away, you know, and that makes a huge difference.
It does.
But then I was bored. Because I was so used to fixing. And then we almost...
Then you got another project?
Then we almost died in a motorcycle accident, hit a wall, and he saved our lives. And it put the pizzazz back. So I always say, if you're on one of those doldrums, go to a bed and breakfast. You don't have to almost hit a wall on a motorcycle.
Right? Go do something else. Don't go.
I was so impressed with him. 50 bikers are clapping because it was unbelievable what he did to prevent us.
Wow.
And he made sure even my leg didn't scrape.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That's incredible.
And he brought the bike
so
back
scary.
up. It was incredible.
So
the clutch
scary.
didn't work. It was raining out and something water had gotten in.
Oh, no.
And it was amazing what he did. And I was so impressed with him, and he was so impressed that I didn't go against him.
Right.
Because I'm a control freak.
Right. Yep.
So,
that you turned with him.
So I've had some major lessons too that I had to learn not to be a control freak, and don't gripe when you have to do everything when you're not willing to let them do anything.
Right? It's sort of like when you fold laundry and your husband tries to help you fold laundry. This is what mine does, and I'll be like, "You're doing it wrong." So then you refold all the laundry, and so you wasted all that time. But I get it; it's part of it. You know, we have to kind of trust.
So it's the opposite. He would do it perfect, and I would be the slob. So we had the opposite on that. He was Mr. Fanatic. Everything had to be. I'm a triple air sign, and he was a Taurus.
Oh,
it's quite a combination,
right? Like a lot of butting heads.
But I got almost 30 years, and most of them were really good. So
that's a blessing, right
there. It was, yeah, absolutely,
right.
Absolutely. And if you look up two of the worst signs together, it's Aquarius and Taurus.
That is so funny.
Isn't that funny? But I needed to be grounded.
So you take
he needed somebody to kick him out of the box.
Right. So you take the good with the bad and you make it work, right? So I'm a Scorpio sun and my husband is a Sagittarius sun, and we just butt heads too, or he'll just be gone. And you're like, where did he go? But I'm so like, I don't really care. I'm fixed. I'm good. I'm good. So like I try to be like, you know, I get it. He needs to sow his wild oats in certain ways that is, you know, acceptable within a marriage. I'm like, I'm not going to bust his beans too much. I'm going to let him go.
That was my favorite saying to my husband too.
Right. I'm not going to bust your beans. I'm just going to let you do. But when it's time to pay the piper and we're supposed to be doing things, then we're going to do them.
Yes.
And he's good at that.
Good.
You know.
But it's everybody wants relationships, and you get so many people that it's sad they're so dramatic about it working. I mean, I've actually had people leave, gone to the bathroom, come out and they're standing there. But do you think we might end up back together
all the time?
Yeah. And I'm
Patty,
like,
all
what
the time.
heck?
All the time. And you know, they don't want to hear what they are perceiving in their mind to be the truth. And that's sad for us to say that, because we just want to help. And you want that person that's asking you for guidance in some sort of way.
And usually the women that I have the hardest time with are the more brilliant women. They're like high up in the corporate world.
Right.
They've got everything going for them, and then that one thing.
They're just stuck on it.
They're stuck on it, and you know, the guy's a drunk and a drug addict. Run.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And you can't get them to.
Right. So what I do in situations like that, where it's somebody's, you know, but what if, but I don't know. And I just literally put it down on the table and I said, this is what this card means. You can take it however you want. This is what this card means. Now, how would you, it's sort of like I give them a little tarot lesson. How would you put these cards together? Like, what story would you tell with these two together regarding your relationship? Would you say
I'm going to try that next time I have
Would
somebody
you say
stuck
that the
on it.
outcome would be good, bad, indifferent? I mean, I always say, I've got no skin in this game. I just want you to be happy. So look at these two cards, and this is exactly what this means, and this is what this means. So tell yourself that story. Because I've gone back and forth with people who have been in the same situation. Relationships, having a child, You know, they fixate on something that they cannot have, and they think of it to be the only form of fulfillment that they're going to get. But we know that that's not right.
Right.
From that, you know, perspective, being on the sidelines of that, but we try to just kind of facilitate some sort of understanding.
I'm very lucky now. My clientele tends to be more where they have a question to say about their job or their love life or something.
Right.
But their main reason for coming is because they're opening up.
Right.
And I tend to draw that. So my readings have gotten to be so much fun because I have
agree.
a lot of that. Yeah.
I agree, because I have that too. And it's funny because when you get that kind of feeling about certain things, and then you'll get another client that'll do the same thing, and then another reading, and then another person, and you're like, whoa, this must be my thing right now that I'm doing. You know, that I'm helping people kind of see what their abilities are and to look at things differently. It's happened all the time. So you throw a card down and be like, whoa, do you already do this? Because you already understand what I'm going to say. You know, and it will be like the next client will be the same way. It's so cool how that happens.
It goes in big lineups of stuff. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Yep.
And so many people are opening up. And like I had said earlier, I've got a lot of mamas and grandmas opening up because they have crystal children or grandchildren that they need to learn so that they can help them and not squish their abilities, you know, and make them feel awkward or anything about it.
Right.
And they're so willing. It's beautiful.
It's great. It really makes your heart sing in a certain way that they can finally see what this is, and there isn't a stigma attached to it. There isn't, you know, any adverse, like we're not invoking the devil to come in. No, it's all about happiness and love. And however you kind of look at that and kind of portray that, especially with your children, because who do you love more? Is your children?
No, your grandchildren.
Oh, okay. I'm not there yet.
Okay, just so you know, they're so much better because you can sugar them up and then you bring them home and then you leave. It's a lot. You get to kidnap them and return them.
I understand that because my parents do the same thing, and I'm like, really, McDonald's again? No, that's what they wanted. Oh. But, you know, it happens.
What do you mean you're taking them on another cruise?
Right. What do you mean we're going on vacation again? I gotta save up. It's funny. You're right. That's who you love the most.
Fun.
It is.
It's so much fun. And I have a step granddaughter that is my granddaughter in my heart.
It's not step.
No.
Right?
And I got to tell you, it's so funny because her mom is the easiest to work with. And I'll sit there and say, like, I'm going to take her for a couple hours. And then I'll call after 6 hours and say, we'll be home soon. And she goes, I always figure between 6 and 9 hours with you. When you kidnap them, you take a long time with them and then you bring them back.
And that's wonderful. I see, so my daughter looks a lot like I did when I was her age. Whether or not she stays like that is, you know, who knows. But I see myself with my father when they're together because he loves her so much, and it's like a do-over, but in the best possible way. And it makes my heart so happy to see that he's enjoying all, you know, because as a parent, you're busy doing the bills and the this and the that, and you're not doing
And you're usually
the
working out money problems and everything else, where all of a sudden when you just have yourself to take care of, you know, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's a whole different ballgame, and it's so beautiful to see. You know, she'll dance with him. She's 12, so she's, you know, getting there. She'll dance with him. She'll talk to him. She'll sit on the side of him. And I'm like, I can see him just melt. Boy, is that finger, you know what I mean? She's got him totally wrapped. But when the time comes that she'll want, and just like your grandson, when the time comes, we'll be ready with open arms to whatever choice that she decides that she wants to do.
I got to tell you, it's so cute. I'm doing wills and stuff like that, right? The opposite of this stuff. But my grandson at 12, he does not understand that it means that I'm gone.
Right.
So he heard me talk about it, and I said, oh, you're going to get your mother's share. He lost his mother, so you'll get mother's share and your share. He goes to me, can we, Grandma, because he overheard me talking to a lawyer outside across because I'm making some changes.
Right.
My daughter got too worked up running the estate for somebody else, so I'm going to have somebody else do it.
Right,
My nephew that's a lawyer.
Right.
So anyway, he overheard, and he's a news bag, and I thought he was in the other room, but he caught on. So he asked questions. So he informed me. He talked to me, and he goes, Grandma, can you sign the house over to me? And I go, okay, why? He goes, oh, don't worry. I'm going to get the money, and I'll pay everybody their share, but I want to live in the house. And he says to me, my wife and I, he's 12 now, he goes, my wife and I, can we have the big bedroom with the private bathroom, and can you take one of the small bedrooms? So he's got me living with him. It's so adorable. And he says, I want to add 2 feet to that side of the house. I want to do this. I said, how cute have you been reconstructing this whole house the whole time
have you
lived
been
there?
Thinking about this?
But the fact that he is expecting me to live with them, I thought was absolutely beautiful.
I mean, that's what you'd want, right?
I had 3 daughters. They couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to get away from each other. You know what I mean? In our own space. Love each other, but can't wait to be
you need
own
your
space.
own space. I understand that too.
So having the grandson do that, and that he was another one. We went to the nursing home to see my aunt, and they had a male nurse that was making all of them stay in bed, and they were all really weak. So my grandson was holding the shake for my aunt and feeding her through the straw, and then he had 3 women that were up, and he was doing these dances, those crazy dances that they do. And he had them all laughing. He gets in the car. All of a sudden, he burst into tears, and he said, "I will make sure you never live in one of them." And I think he was like 8 or 9 at the time. Needless to say, we went to Walmart, and he got to pick out the Lego set he wanted.
No, you won't, buddy. I know you won't.
Yep.
That's so sweet.
Isn't that adorable?
Yeah, that's sweet. But it's, having that connection with a grandparent, that's why, again, kind of going back to that psychic bouncer, that's, I see, you had said it before the previous guest, I see a lot of grandmothers too, and they cook for me, which is the coolest thing. So they'll hand me the pan with like the special casserole, the lasagna, the cookies.
I love it.
Oh my God, and they give it to me, and I'll describe it to the people sitting in front of me, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could taste that right now. But they'll show me what they're proud of, and usually that frame of mind is their kitchen, what they make, what they provide for their family.
Plus, a lot of times, do you find it comes up between Thanksgiving and Christmas because they want some of their special recipes
and
made?
They want you to use the tablecloth, the silverware, the special casserole dish. They show me all of this stuff, and they, use her recipe is what's important. Easter too, it's food is what kind of, especially with our culture and where we're located. That's where a lot of people, Sunday dinners and everything else. That's where they really connect.
Yep.
So they're still doing that on the other side. Their personalities shine through, and I'm like, oh, Nana's making those special scones that, she always made, and you thought they were bitter, but if you tried them now, you'd probably love them, that kind of a thing, right?
And my dad comes in, I can always tell when it's Daddy's girl.
Right.
Because my dad comes in.
Right.
We'll stop in, and then he will bring in their dad, and they'll have 3 pink roses with a ribbon from their hut to their hut.
It's so beautiful.
And I just, oh my God, I just love it, love it, love it. Unless I'm doing group readings, where you're afraid that the sibling that isn't the favorite is sitting next to them, then I get a little nerved up about it.
Sometimes, and you're like, ooh, I don't know, nope, you, not you.
But if they keep pushing it, then I say it, do you know what I mean?
Right, well, you're not
and a lot of
back.
time the sibling laughs because they said, I knew you were always the favorite, so it ends up cute at the end of it all. So.
And I say that personalities come through a lot, which is really important because a lot of people, especially if they've gone through any, situation where it's really tragic or traumatic, they want an answer. And sometimes we don't have an answer, but what we can do is we can kind of preserve that personality or those different attributes of that person that they're missing and they're loving, that come through. And that's that's the key.
And I left, like my father with the robin, one of I had many that I would call favorite memories, but one of the earliest favorite memories, a boy was trying to throw a robin up in the air, and I ran and grabbed the robin and brought it home, and it had a broken wing, and my father set the wing.
Oh, how sweet.
And my mother was petrified of birds, but because I was so obsessed, she took that fear and just disregarded it.
Right.
And then 3.5 weeks later, I'm sitting under the oak tree playing with the bird, and doing Barbie dolls or whatever, paper dolls, and the birds hopping around. And all of a sudden it left me for another bird, and I sobbed and I sobbed and I sobbed. So I did have good parents because I ended up with a parakeet to shut me up. But but in there, it was just so beautiful to see the whole thing, that my father doing it. Then I brought a snapping turtle, a giant snapping turtle.
You're lucky you still have your fingers.
Well, I kind of pushed it over to the house, and it had one missing leg, and it was bleeding really bad.
Oh, no.
So I had my father cortisone it, and we put our initials on it because you didn't know oil paint wasn't really good for it.
Right.
And I laughed. I worked for the Wildlife Association, I found out. So sometimes if I see the turtle tour, it goes right to Dad.
Right.
You know? every year that turtle came back once a year, and it had to go a kind of main road,
Right.
come into another yard, then into our yard. So I finally, when I worked at the Wildlife Association, one of the heads of it said to me, do realize that that snapping turtle was a female? Realize that you cared and you were safe, so put her eggs there every year
that's
in
why
your
she came
yard.
back.
So she came back to put the eggs there. We just
Did
wondered
she have
why.
a name? Did you give her a name?
No, we didn't. We just painted our initials on her,
okay.
and just
Yeah.
was so relieved that she was going to live, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So.
Oh,
yeah.
that's such a sweet story.
Yeah. So, but the robin in particular, when I said, that's how I knew it was my father the
Right.
first time.
Right.
It came through.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny and so beautiful.
It is, and you know, birds are a connection to heaven, right? Because they can fly, right, between the planes, right? If we think about it, right? And so having that connection and that bird that comes through, people see cardinals or hummingbirds or anything, and it reminds them of their loved ones, and I think that is just so beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. And robins, that's cool because when spring comes, they're all out there. And so you can see them, and they're still out there now because they're having their babies. So they may just flock to you, no pun intended.
Oh, I had 12 of them in my front yard the other day.
Oh my
I had the
God.
one that was my mom and my father, but then I had a bunch of other ones.
Really? I've been seeing a lot of crows lately, a lot of ravens and crows, and I'm like, what is going on
My
here?
husband comes through that usually when the grandkids and stuff are around because he
Right.
likes to watch over everybody.
Right.
When it's just me, he's a dragonfly.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So I got a beautiful, so that's why I have the ring that's the dragonfly with
yeah.
the amethyst in
Yep.
it. So he comes through as a dragonfly, yeah.
Yep.
But those symbols and everything, and you know, I do these gigs at Saltitudes up in Lincoln.
Oh, I love
I love
Saltitudes.
Saltitudes. Oh, I love PJ.
I love them.
Yeah.
Great people.
Yeah.
Yep.
The whole family is.
Yes.
And so I do mediumship things up there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you describe the symbols, it makes everybody so happy because they realize, oh my God, I've had such and such in my backyard.
Right.
And they pay attention more. Because if they linger and they stare in your eyes,
Right.
or
and you know, if
you have a
there's-
dragonfly that stays on your windshield, you go to the next light and the bat thing is back on the windshield.
Right.
That isn't a dragonfly. That is a loved one.
That is a loved one, absolutely. And we have to take those signs and be like, that is absolute proof that our loved ones are still around. My grandmother comes through as a blue jay. And of course, blue jays are screaming when you know,